Hello, everybody. Ali Duzette here. Welcome to my laundry zone. We're going to fold some laundry tonight while we talk about toxic hope, which is something I found myself engaging in today. And when I realized what I was up to, I thought, okay, alert, course correct. We better figure out another solution. And I thought, I've got to talk about this. So let's talk about toxic hope. This is not a phrase that I've heard other people use. Maybe they do. Maybe this is like a big thing and I just don't know. But in my own mind, it's something that I made up myself. So if there's like a bunch of articles about it, feel free to link them below. But toxic hope to me is when one person toxically hopes that another person is going to change. Okay. And I just think that this can become such a poisonous dynamic when people obsess over other people changing. And I think all humans do it. I think it's kind of a default setting for all the humans where, we see people around us doing stuff that we disagree with. And we think, I would be so much happier if that person just changed completely, or they would be so much happier if they would just change completely. And um it can be rooted in pride and selfishness, but it's always rooted in selfishness. If only you would change so that you would conform to what I think that you should do, so that you can be who I think that you should be, regardless of who you actually are. And I think this is especially a dynamic that happens in religious situations, but I think that it would be doing the world a disservice to imply that only religious people engage in toxic hope, because I think every human being does it. But there are just some kinds of situations where it seems to crop up more often. I think more toxic hope shows up in situations where you are personally affected. Like, I sure hope that my kid stops, making these kinds of choices that are affecting me. Whereas I think sometimes the more like religiously motivated toxic hope is like, oh, I just hope my kid makes different decisions because I just know better for them what, how their life should be. And, maybe you actually do know better for them how their life should be, but who does it bless to toxically obsess over other people's choices, because the fact of the matter is that when other people are hoping that you will change in a way that you do not want to change, you can feel it and it is not comfortable for you, right? Have you ever had a situation in your life where there were people that either maybe they told you to your face that you're doing it wrong, that you would be so much happier if you just did it like they think that you should do it? Um, or have you had a situation where they didn't say that? They just really gave off those vibes every time that you interacted with them. Like maybe they didn't say, wow, what an idiot you are. You would really be happier if you did things my way. But maybe they, gave you that look when you're making a decision or when you're talking with them about what you did, and you just know in your soul, like, oh my gosh, they're judging me so hard for what I did, and they think that they know better than me how to live my own life. um the thing about toxic hope to me is that it really is just so prideful, and it's such inappropriate judgment of where everybody is on their journey. First off, it's an inappropriate judgment of the person that we're hoping about, that we know better where they should be on their life journey, which is, I think, kind of prideful. Oh, this is too small. Okay, donate. One for the donate pile. Yes. But the other thing that is really prideful is that it assumes that we are actually like so smart and we really know stuff. And I think, again, in like a religious sphere, we can say, well, I understand the scriptures and you're doing it wrong. But I actually think most of us probably don't understand the scriptures as well as we think that we do, because probably if we did, we'd have more respect for God's timing. Um, I'm thinking of the story of like Alma and Alma the younger, and his dad did pray that his son would have an experience that would change his life, and he prayed that probably for a lot of years. But that was on God's timeline. And I don't know, that story is always really interesting to me because I don't know. I mean, I think as a parent, it's appropriate to pray for your children. um, and even to pray for them to make different decisions than they are making, perhaps. But at the same time, there gets to be this line where our prayers go from just like thy will be done, like this is what I think should happen, Lord, but thy will be done, and I'm going to find peace today no matter what happens. I think that would be the healthy expression of this, but I think a lot of people get very far out of the healthy expression of this, and and it becomes this obsession, like that my kid has to do the right things the way that I think they should on the timeline that I think they should, or else they're going to have a big problem. And I don't know, I always just feel like god loves god loves your child more than you do, like God loves my children more than I do. Like maybe there's some space for us to like trust that God has it under control more than we realize. And I don't know. Do I want to tell this story right now? I will. It's going to delve into religiosity, but just brace yourself if you're sick of that kind of thing. But my best friend in high school, I invited her to girls' camp with me where we like study scriptures all during camp. And she was Jewish, and she ended up like falling in love with the gospel. And we'd have sleepovers all the time, and we would stay up all night and just like read the scriptures together. I'm like, oh no, we're running out of school uniform shirts that actually fit this kid. I'm gonna have to go order a bunch of shirts. Okay. Um, anyway, and it got to the point where I just said, okay, look, you probably got to get baptized now. And she said, no, I can't do it until my mom gets baptized. And I really judged her for that, because I was like, your mom's never getting baptized, weirdo. Like, wake up and smell the coffee. It's never gonna happen. You just gotta get dunked, you know? And I was really mean about it. I mean, like, I wasn't, but in my heart, I was, you know? I was like, I know better than her. It's always the best if everybody just bees righteous the way I think they should as fast as possible. Well, it ended up taking much longer than I thought it should take. Um, that she asked her mother if she could meet with some missionaries, and her mom said, okay, but only if I get to sit in too. And I need to hear what they have to say. And so she did, and her mom ended up getting baptized first. They got baptized together, and her mom went first, and it was perfect and in God's timing. And my friend truly did not need to get baptized that moment, you know? And I was really judgy about it, but guess what? She was right. And like, there is a bigger timeline, and this is more complicated than just the right thing to do is just to do the right thing right now. That's not always true. You know, there is a bigger timeline, and we're just like little wonky humans. And what do we know, you know? And but we think we know a lot, especially when we get our like holier than thou righteous pride involved, where we're like, I'm so righteous and I know the gospel and everybody should just live it the way that I think that we should live it. Well, what if that's not true? And what if there's more to the story than you think, you know? And what if God is smarter than you, actually? And what if our job is to just listen to the spirit and our own intuition every single day, and realize that everybody's on a different timeline, and just like kind of get over it. And that's like kind of a mean way to say it, but that's what I tell my own self. That's what I had to tell myself, you know, as I was learning this years ago, of like, oh, like I am really not as smart as I think I am, and like I am not qualified to be making these kinds of decisions about, I mean, they're not even my decisions, but like I'm not qualified to make these judgments about other people's lives and other people's timelines, you know? Like there is a bigger timeline than I'm aware of. And um my big job is to learn how to like honor it and let go of my own obsession over everything happening on my timeline. So let's bring it back to toxic hope, because I think as individuals, we really bristle against it when we feel the toxic hope of others. I think some famous toxic hope would be like the parents that push their child to become a doctor, you know, or a lawyer, even when the child doesn't want to do those things. Like that would be a great example of the parents' toxic hope in their child's career. Um, and yeah, the toxic hope of trying to force our own agendas on other people. And sometimes these things are really justified, you know, like if we're thinking about a perhaps like a domestic violence kind of situation, like it makes sense that you would hope that this person would change, you know? But in all of these instances, well, and okay, pause, and I'll come back to that thought. When it comes to toxic hope, we're all impacted by it. And actually, sometimes our toxic hope does impact people, and then they're manipulated. Like they feel manipulated, but they were successfully manipulated. Like, have you ever been manipulated by somebody's toxic hope? You know, oh my gosh, this from years ago, I knew this lady. This has got to be too small. Okay. The boys cleaned out their room. They have a room in the basement, and I found their corner of like who even knows. It was horrifying, and I helped them sort it, but they put it all in the dirty clothes. It's all clothes they outgrew years ago and like shoved in the corner. Um, so anyway, um, when when we actually capitulate to toxic hope, it just breeds so much resentment and sometimes even hatred. Like toxic hope can be a way to get people to do what you want because you're like, I just wish you would change. I just wish you would change. And when people actually do, sometimes they really do. But does it make anybody's life better, or does it just add to the festering resentment that's going on under the surface, right? Like toxic hope exists, it has a place. Um, People use it and it does get the job done sometimes, but it always makes things worse than they would be if we all just like trusted God's timeline and trusted that we're actually not that smart, guys, you know, like we're not that smart. um so going back to my first thought, which was that um when we release that toxic hope and accept people for who they are, it shifts a whole lot of dynamics. I was thinking of that in the context of that domestic violence situation that I had mentioned. Like when you let go of the hope that this person's going to change and just realize, oh my gosh, they're an abusive jerk and they're not going to change, like then you like your brain is like, oh, like I could go, like there's a new decision to be made. Instead of like fixating on what if they change, what if they change, we can just say they're not changing. Or maybe they might change, but like I can't count on that. And so I'm done with this, right? When we release ourselves from the prison of toxic hope and delusionality about how humans work and how we work, as soon as we let go of that delusion and just accept things for how they are, it opens up all sorts of new ways that we can interface with the world and with our relationships. And I think the first time that we start really letting go of that stuff, it can be very difficult actually, and lead to a lot of upheaval. Like if you have lived in toxic hope with your toxic relationship, you know, your romantic relationship, your best friend relationship, your relationship with your mom, your relationship with your sibling, you know, if you have a pretty toxic relationship somewhere in your life and then you suddenly are like, oh, like I hoped they would change, they're never going to change, and then you kind of have to act a little bit differently in response to this change in information that you now have access to. You know, like maybe your soul knew it all along, but your conscious mind did not realize, like, oh, they're not changing. You know, as long as we're trying to, you know, channel our delusions into fixing a relationship, um I don't know, it's not gonna work. I don't know. And when we stop doing that, dynamics start to shift because we start to shift. We start to say, oh, like I've been trying to get you to change this whole time, and that's not fair to you, and that's not fair to me. Like it's not fair to either of us. I need to kind of accept you where you're at and then renegotiate the landscape and terrain of our relationship. Okay. So today I realized I was engaging in some toxic hope and I didn't realize it. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, you know? There was this situation that's been going on for like a very long time. Um, in my life, and you know, somebody else is involved with the dynamic that I'm dealing with, and I hadn't realized until today at the grocery stores. I was like thinking about it while like selecting hot sauces, you know, and I'm like, oh, like I get it, like this is toxic hope. Like I thought that I had kind of like transcended that, but no, I didn't. I was still thinking like, what if this person like wakes up tomorrow and they magically change, like Alma the Younger, like what if a miracle happens and like suddenly everything is different? Well, what if, and sometimes that does happen, but is it the wisest choice for any human to live their life on the what if of that? Like, no, that's not the best choice. And as I thought of that, I thought, oh my gosh, I've engaged in toxic hope. Like, it is not fair for me to be putting this kind of pressure on this other person, even though I've never said, get your act together, loser. If I did, you know, I might not have said it verbally, but my heart was saying it, and like my soul was saying it, and their soul was feeling it, because that's the thing. Like, none of our thoughts are secret. Okay. Like, they're secret in that, like, you walk around and people can't just read your mind every moment, but they're not secret in the sense that everything that you think about another person gets transmitted to their energy field. Okay. If a person is feeling like really depressed and awful, a lot of times their own energy field is actually under attack from people. I really think this is one reason why a lot of these big Hollywood people end up going absolutely crazy, because the human energy field is not supposed to deal with 10,000 people judging them all at the same time. That's just like not what we were designed for, and it's hard on the spirit. It just is. It's just so hard. And people feel all these judgments of other people. I think of these celebrities where like everybody's like making jokes about them on Instagram, or like right now the hot thing to make fun of is the breakdancer, right? And guess what? I'm not gonna lie to you. I've sent 10,000 of those memes to my brother and I think they're hilarious, but guess what? It's not very nice, and it's not nice to her energy field. And yeah, maybe she brought it on herself and she should have known better. And I do think the whole thing was a corruption grift where she like manipulated the government to get a free vacation to France with her husband, who was in on it. And it's a long story. If you haven't looked into it, it's kind of interesting. But even though all of that, like, her energy field has got to be just such a massive mess right now, because everyone all over the entire planet is sending her these kind of hateful vibes, or like mocking vibes, which mockery is sometimes worse than hatred, honestly. When I was a kid, I lived in Vienna for a while, Austria, with my grandpa, who worked at the UN there. And we went, this is like gross, but it is true that I was obsessed with torture museums, and we would go to torture museums. I don't know. I just really liked it. I was like 12, okay. But why am I talking about that? Because at the torture museum, they had this big exhibit on humiliation as torture. And humiliation is indeed incredible torture. And I think we can all agree with that. And I need to do a humiliation session, because I think I've done a ton of healing, but the stuff that really still gets me, I mean, plenty of stuff still gets me, but some of the biggest stuff is the times that I was humiliated. And I'm like, I need to set aside like 2 hours to just like seriously process my embarrassment and humiliation. But those things are really real. And when somebody has a huge embarrassment that gets broadcasted on social media and becomes this viral event that the whole world has its eyes on, that's just devastating for the energy field. Gall, what does that have to do with toxic hope? Come on, somebody tell me, what was I talking about? Anyway, the point is that, oh yeah, when we have toxic hope, all of your secret thoughts and your secret hatreds and your secret jealousies and resentments end up lodged in the energy field of the other person. It's called quantum entanglement, right? Spooky action at a distance is what Einstein called it. And it's the idea that electrons can exist in multiple locations at the same time. Oh gosh, I have no idea whose shirt this is. What that means, this like quantum entanglement or quantum entrainment, is that when you are thinking about another person, the electrons of that person are like lighting up in the context of your thought. Okay. And this is a really interesting dynamic. Again, like, have you ever heard that thing of like, is it when your ears itch and it's like because somebody was talking about you? But that kind of stuff actually does happen. And I'm sure many of us have had the experience where we're thinking about somebody and then they call, there is a connection that's happening. Every time anybody thinks about anybody, that connection is lighting up. And so when we are thinking positive things, it's going to have a really different result than when we're thinking negative things, right? Just a really good reason to kind of be a little bit strict with ourselves on what we're thinking about other people. And to when we find ourselves thinking negatively of other people, to look within and say, like, do I really want that energy going into that person's energy field? Like, if they're already a crabby person, do I want to add to it, And, I'm not perfect. And I don't know. There's some people I say bad stuff about sometimes. I'm like, hashtag politics. I don't know. But it is just something to be like very aware of, and something that I think all the humans should be aware of. And I think scripturally speaking, um, I think the scriptures spend an enormous amount of time trying to like get us to realize and embody this kind of truth, right? Like, oh my gosh, the verse I'm thinking of is when Peter, I think, is talking about the law of Moses and what you can eat, and Jesus just says, like, it's not what goes into your mouth that matters, it's what comes out of your mouth that matters. Like, come on. And that the tongue is the thing that really defiles the man, which is, I mean, like, them's fighting words, like you gotta watch your mouth. Anyway, all of that is to say, people can feel your toxic hope. If you're sitting there every day fixating on hoping that somebody else will change, I want you to think about what happens when people do that to you. Do you love it when you know that your mother-in-law is obsessing over the changes that she wishes that you would make in your life? Do you love that? You wake up and you're like, I'm so glad my mother-in-law just wishes that I would be a different person today, No, you probably don't. If you had parents that were really pushy about what they wanted you to do when you grew up, like, did you love it? Probably not, And so we all have this great opportunity to learn how to have compassion and forgiveness for other people who are engaging in toxic hope against us. And then we get to learn how to engage in healthier dynamics with hope for other people. And as we do this, it just opens up so much more grace in our lives and so much more peace in our lives. Okay, my last thought, I'm sorry, I feel like I've talked forever, but my last thought about toxic hope is that today I was thinking about this one situation that I have going on, and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I am engaging in toxic hope. I am telling myself, what if this person changes, and that's not fair to them and it's not fair to me. But the other thing I realized was I'm engaging in toxic hope about myself. I am toxically believing that I'm going to change, in this exact dynamic. And I just thought, at least with that, like, you are the boss of if you change, you can't control if somebody else is going to change, but you actually can mostly control if you're going to change. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, to be honest, which maybe I'll talk about tomorrow. But, to the extent you can control anyone, you are the anyone that you can control, and I do think that our instincts have a lot to say about what we actually do and like planetary weather and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, that the choices that you make are the choices, like, you are the only one that can change you for real. And you're the only one that you really have stewardship over. We can try and force our children to change, or our parents to change, or our spouses to change, but at the end of the day, the only person that you can really change is yourself. And also, we all have probably known through sad experience that many times we've tried to change and we didn't. And I don't know that all of that is bad, because I think that we all come here with different missions and different, natural qualities and stuff. But today at the store, I thought, oh, I'm approaching this situation as if this person might change and as if I might change. And the chances are actually slim. Like, I've been dealing with this for like such a long time. I don't know that I will be a different person in the context of this situation anytime soon. Like, maybe the more humble and more realistic approach is to realize, like, I'm probably not going to change over this. Like, it's probably not going to happen, you know? Um, it's it can be safe to release the people in our lives from our toxic hope, and it can be safe to release yourself from your toxic hope. You know, let's talk about it in the context of like weight loss, you know, where it's like, oh man, I really like this is going to be the diet for me. This is the time I'm really going to stick to it. Is it? Is it really? When you already tried 45 of them and none of those were the one? And not to say to lose hope, but not to be toxic about it. You know, can we release that frantic, frenetic fixation on like, this is the time, this is the one, this is the moment, I'm going to get my act together, release ourselves from that energy and just say, you know what? God, thy will be done. You know, I'm going to put in my part and I'm going to release the result to you. And I'm going to even release the process to you and you're going to guide me. And we're going to work together and see what the results unfold to be. Right. I would say that is the much healthier alternative to the toxic hope situation for both others and for ourselves. Can we just show up every day and do what we're supposed to do? And then just let God handle the result. You know, can we just trust that we're doing the right thing when we are doing the right thing? I mean, like we tune in every day and say, okay, God, am I doing the right thing? And if we're not, we course correct. And if we are, then we just say, okay, then I'm going to do it, even if I feel doubt, even if I'm scared, even if I have to like make this video with my crazy hair and in my pajamas while I fold laundry, like we're just going to do it. Sometimes we just got to do it and release the results. You know, our job is not to fixate on other people changing until they change. And our job is not to fixate on ourselves changing until we change. Our job is to show up, take our deep breaths, listen to God and our own bodies, and make choices that feel like we are in alignment with God according to the feelings inside of our own bodies. Right? That's the only way you can tell if you're listening to God is the sensations that you experience from within your own body, right? So that is the situation that we have to work with. And as long as you do that, though, then God's going to lead you every single step of the way. And if you're constantly reevaluating and saying, okay, is this right in my body? Is this right in my body? You're going to be led to exactly where you need to be at exactly the right time. Okay, remember to write your pages front, back, front of pages of paper, just dumping out anything from your subconscious mind that needs to go. Your shopping list, your song lyrics, your feelings, your complaints, let them out. Come and report in my Facebook group, Intuitive Healing with Ali Duzette. And thank you guys for being here. We'll see you tomorrow.